Hey fellow fragrance lovers and enthusiasts, welcome back. It's Benjamin here at the Scentaur Fragrance Channel. How you doing? How you smelling? How's the fragrance life going for you? If you're new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by today. It's a wonderful, beautiful fragrance day. I hope that you're doing well, and I hope everything's going right for you. So today, I'm going to be showcasing a whole new brand, just how I like to do it. I love to showcase new fragrances, new brands, new exciting things, and today is the Elemental Fragrances. Now, first off, in full disclosure, these samples were sent to me, but that's not going to influence me one way or the other to give these a positive review. Not even full-size bottles can do that. But take this with a grain of salt if you'd like. He actually took a little while to get to me, and he apologized. You don't have to do that, my friend. You're really awesome. Thank you for sending me these samples my way. And of course, I definitely like to get the word out and help somebody who's trying to make a better life for themselves. So a whole new company and a whole new brand. Let's see what we got ourselves into, guys. And the whole brand is focused on some really interesting memories and emotions. The first one is called Mogul. Now, this is just second impressions, but I'm going to do full-length reviews in the future. But the first one is called Mogul. Now, this one is a really interesting, sweet, smoky, almost boozy-like fragrance, but it captures a very unique smell of wood. I'm not sure what kind of wood is used for the smokiness in this fragrance, but birch and the birch tar that comes from birch, that actually comes from the, most of the time, actually the skin or the bark of the tree is what's most common in things like Aventus and that dark, almost sharp kind of nature to a lot of that smoky fragrances. So that's probably what you're familiar with. I do not think that's what's going on here. There's an interesting, really interesting smokiness and a wispiness to it, like a sweet smoke. If you've ever been around smoking barbecue and foods like that, this is a really rich aroma. It's going to smell pretty unique to you, and I think it's quite nice. I really do like this one, and it kind of battles to be my favorite, but my favorite is kind of at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But a very good introduction for their first fragrance, Mogul. Maybe a little bit linear, maybe not the most interesting, and smoky fragrances aren't for everybody, but it's a little bit sweet and certainly very unique. I'll tell you all the price points of these at the end of the video and what I think about that possibly, but I'll save a little bit of that for the individual reviews as well. The next one is none other than Empress. And this is a very interesting fragrance. Honestly, I haven't smelled a lot of fragrances like this one. This one's a aldehydic, grassy style fragrance. There are florals going on here. I'm just double checking to see if there's anything I forgot, and I did. I almost forgot to mention the citrus. So there's a lot of lime, a lot of aldehydic types notes. It almost has a dry herbal effect in this fragrance, almost like a dry herbal unsweetened tea. There's not really any sweetness in this fragrance. And if you ladies out there like those green floral scents that smell kind of classy and a little bit regal, maybe a very, very small touch of powderiness in the background, you might really like this one. I hear that ladies really like this fragrance, and I did let my mother and some other ladies, test this fragrance and see what they thought about it. And so, to my surprise, they did seem to like it. I think it's a little bit sharp. I think it's a little bit strong in the opening, but then it dries down. It ends up being kind of aldehydic and fresh and clean smelling, but yet a very interesting woodiness. It's called Empress. It smells very upscale. Maybe might remind you of a Chinese empress, like a Chinese queen with an emerald green dress, sipping on some green, unsweetened tea. And of course, the whole kind of a geisha kind of look going on. So really interesting fragrance, really, really nice. The next one is called Ambiguous. Now this fragrance, I don't remember the notes. I gotta look at it. Yes, I knew something was weird about this one. It might be something that you really like. This is cannabis flower. Yes, this has lots of cannabis to it. And it's like a floral cannabis scent. But it's really, really fascinating. It has that kind of like classic mass appealing quality where it like almost has a fabric softener smell that kind of rises and then it smooths out and ends up smelling like cotton in the dry down. If you've smelled a lot of fragrances and you've been in the fragrance game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And this fragrance uses a lot of cannabis. It does. But it's more of a clean, like green, almost dewy type of cannabis. It's very fresh. And I don't have a lot of experience, honestly. I'm not into that kind of stuff. And I certainly would not wear this to the workplace. It depends on where you work, what state you live at. But where I live, is very frowned upon. And you would get looked at very suspiciously. If not, and drug tests are a very real thing around here. So ambiguous is not a fragrance I would wear, not only for professional reasons, but also for personal reasons. I personally don't love the smell of cannabis, and it's not overtly strong here. This is actually a very wearable and a more fresh, mass-appealing take on cannabis. I think a lot of people who have made cannabis fragrances in the past have took and just run with the idea and made big, bold, smoky fragrances or fragrances with lots of cannabis. Bold and in-your-face cannabis, and this one is more of an everyday kind of approach to that fragrance, and I think that's a nice thing. So that's pretty nice, ambiguous. So the next one is Abstract Mortals, and this one, double checking on the notes as well, rose, musk, sweetness, and the interesting note that I always seem to forget to mention to y'all is lotus. And if you don't know what lotus is, look it up. It's a very interesting floral note in here. It almost seems like a cross between magnolia, if you've ever smelled magnolia, and peony. That's how it's coming across. If you don't know what peony or magnolia smells like, I encourage you to get essential oils. And living in nature, that's in the South and in the woods, that's what you're going to get. Anyways, back to the fragrance. Smells some peony. Some fragrances, just look up the notes. You might have a fragrance or two that has peony. Magnolia isn't extremely common, but it's a very beautiful note, and it's kind of a joy to wear. It's a magnolia that, as eye for a guy, can kind of more easily wear and kind of more easily approach. So this is a very interesting, very clean fragrance. Again, very cottony. But this one smells very, very, almost in the same vein of something like Prada El Homme, but fuller bodied. Smells a lot more like cotton, and I think it's really well done. When I first smelled this one, I didn't get it. Maybe the little sample needed to mature a little bit. There is a little bit of sandalwood in the dry down, adding some creaminess to the fragrance. And I'm not sure what kind of sandalwood it is, but it is a little bit more on the fresh side and the lighter side, being like airy, but it still has a presence to it. So ambiguous is quite a nice fragrance. Actually, my first impression of that one wasn't so positive, but now that I understand the fragrance, I'm actually kind of impressed by that one too. But that's, again, more of a clean, not overtly unique, and for this, again, we'll talk about prices at the end of the video, but kind of getting into that territory where things are kind of entry-level niche or niche. Then this might not be something that you're crazy about, but I do like it. I do think it's good. But you know how crazy I am about Dunhill Century for the price. I don't know if that can be beat right now for the price. So this one, next one is called Rose and Woods. This is kind of a simple fragrance. It has sandalwood, radcurrant, citrus, but yet has orchid. And I say it's simple because I feel like it's composed in a very simple fashion. I don't feel like any creative risk was taken with how the fragrance is composed, but the notes is what's special here. The orchid is the bigger player on top of the rose, and I feel like it's a really interesting, kind of like an interesting take on a purple feeling fragrance that's still fresh. There's a lot of fragrances that, especially with jasmine to me, that smell or feel purple and they end up being heavier or denser or richer or more elegant. And this is more of like an everyday feminine woody fragrance, and it's actually pretty well done. When I smelled this fragrance, even though it's a little bit more of a simple composition, I thought the notes came through really clear as pretty good quality. And the orchid, which is more unique. Y'all know that I'm a tuberose kind of guy, big fan of tuberose, but I do have to say with this fragrance that it really stood out to me in a positive way for being an interesting wearable fragrance that's not a fruity floral for the ladies. This one does bring something a little bit different to the game. Empress, you know, you ladies might really like that one, but Rose and Woods also might be a, if you have never had a woody fragrance, or maybe you've always wanted a woody fragrance, that's what I'm trying to say. This one might just be the one. So, let's see here. The next one is Amorous. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. And This one is Deep and Mysterious. It has amber base. This one has orchid as well, and it's supposed to tell a story. It doesn't tell us a lot about the notes. That's why I always double check this one. And it's supposed to retell a story about walking, a romantic tale of watching a loved one, or like a wife, walk down, I guess through an amalgamation of flowers at a conservatory in a garden in New York Central Park. So this is supposed to be pretty floral. Let's see what if I don't remember this one at all. That might not be a good thing. Yeah, it's I don't remember this one very well because it wasn't something that I love. This is a very soft, delicate, tender kind of floral. Very, very nice, very innocent smelling, very charming. Something that would be a little bit more of a skin scent. It's not going to be the biggest projector. And it's something that's just going to be an everyday scent. Maybe for a lady who's more shy. Maybe a lady who's more delicate. Or maybe just a lady who just wants something very, very inoffensive. It is a nice fragrance, and I do think the quality comes through pretty well with these fragrances. I think he's done a pretty good job with the quality. So the next one is the Grands, and this wasn't intentional. This is actually at the end of the list, the second last one on the list, and this one's called the Grands. This is actually my favorite fragrance from the whole bunch that I've smelled. This one blew me away really quick. This one has a really interesting note. Let me read it here, double check. It has top notes of freesia, mid notes, and base notes of Buddha wood. Now, to my nose, this fragrance, I really like freesia. I've always liked freesia, but I've always felt like most of the fragrances that use it try to do it in more of a feminine approach. And it's certainly a floral that can do very well with fragrances for the ladies. English Pear and Freesia by Jo Malone is one of my favorite fragrances for the ladies. I wish they would make a pure extract version so it was longer lasting. I really do. It's not that Jo Malone fragrance, like most Jo Malones, really suffer and just don't have very good longevity. This fragrance, I really do like it. It has lotus on the top as well. It really interesting, like mellow, almost creamy, kind of floral. I'm really impressed by this fragrance. It ends up being a woody floral fragrance, which I usually struggle with. Some Montals get into that territory. I usually don't like floral fragrances at all. This is a woody floral. The florals are very interesting and different, and the woody notes are very interesting and different. Not an uber complex fragrance, only 3 notes that are mentioned, but there's something about this one, guys. There's some charm to it, and it's supposed to recapture the feeling, and I think like the romance and the love of like grandparents and really and like a play. Really nice emotion. And I talked to the owner as well, and I didn't even know, but he said that he made this fragrance after a dream he had, I'm guessing, of his grandparents reenacting a play, or just kind of maybe having a flashback of their whole story and their love story. So really awesome fragrance. I'm really impressed by the Grands. I think I'm gonna have to get that one. So the last one here is called Leather Boy. And y'all probably know that I am a leather boy, but I don't love this fragrance exactly. You know, the Grands really impressed me. Some of these really, I'll tell y'all at the end my 3 favorite fragrances from these samples from the whole line. But this one isn't for me. It's a little bit too spicy. This is very intense. It has tobacco, leather, and vanilla. And it's very bold. And for some reason, how the tobacco comes off to my nose. It's a little bit dry. It's a little bit spicy underneath. For some reason, it reminds me of clove. I don't know if clove is a supporting note in the accords of this fragrance. But that comes off to me. It's a little bit dry. A little bit smoky, a really interesting smokiness coming through with this fragrance as well. So I do like it, but I don't absolutely love it. And it's going to be for somebody who wants a leather fragrance that has a little bit of a twist on it, and maybe is a little bit of maybe a leather fragrance that's better for the fall. You know, some leather fragrances, you might think that they're all for the fall, but I find that most leather fragrances are definitely spring and nighttime wear appropriate. This one, it's because of the smokiness, might not be for the summer at all, but it's not any bit darker, it's just a little bit smokier. Anyways, let's wrap this up and talk about my final thoughts with the price. I will do full-length reviews of all these fragrances in the future, but really, I'm really impressed by Mogul. And y'all know that the Grands really spoke to me. I'm definitely going to have to get that one. But also, Ambiguous kind of grew on me over time, which really surprised me. But for the ladies, I mean, a lot of ladies seem to like the Empress better. But for me, I think that Rose and Woods, it really impressed me because there's a lot of fragrances, especially a lot of more cheaper fragrances that try to do the rose woody dry down combo. It's so easy to make just some fragrances with some citrus off the top, throw some rose for the heart in the mid of the fragrance, and then throw some woods in there for the dry down. This really is, again, more of a simple fragrance, but if you've been looking for something like that, it really does it in a really good way. Probably that best kind of fragrance, in my opinion, that I've tried. Now, I do think that these are 50 mils. I'll have to double check with y'all when I do the full-length reviews. But each one of these fragrances is $100, and there are some that are a little bit more. The Amorous and the Grands and Empress are, I think, $20 more, $120. So these are not cheap fragrances. They definitely are in the world of niche. Now, I wouldn't even, for this kind of price, I don't even know if I would say entry-level niche. This is definitely in the mid, but I do think the quality stands up. I think that he's done a really good job. I'll have to test these a little bit more for the longevity, but I think he's done a stellar job with all these fragrances. I don't know how long it took him to make these. I don't know if he worked with anybody to make these, but coming out with a brand with this many hitters, and most of them are pretty well done for the most part. I do have to say that none of them are terribly flops. None of them are terribly boring. None of them come across as terribly cheap, especially for the price. So I've smelled niche fragrances that were a lot worse. I'm not trying to hype up this brand because they sent me some samples. Even full-size bottles don't do that, guys. I don't sell my integrity. But guys, I do have to, I do like to give a shout out to a new brand, and I do have to say that interesting notes are being used here, and I hope the longevity is good on them, because if the longevity is good, Mogul might end up being pretty highly recommended, and the Grands probably will end up being highly recommended from me here at the Scentaur Fragrance Channel. So thank y'all for being here, everybody. I really do appreciate y'all. I wish y'all the very best. Stay safe, be smelling great, and I'll see y'all next time. If you did watch to the end of the video, you must like my content, and I hope that you do. And don't miss on any of my content. I put out at least 5 videos a week, and it really helps you to get notified if you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out any of that content. So like, comment, hit that notification bell, share the video, and even tell a friend about Scentaur's fragrance. Just share, yours truly to the world. So I'll see you next time, everybody. Have a good one. I'll see you next time. Be smelling great. I know that you are. Wear what you love, rock what you got, and I'll see you next time, everybody. Peace out, everybody. Bye.